Hello and welcome, fellow bookworms and film fans. Welcome to this week's episode of The Contented Narrative. I'll be looking at Sleeping Beauties by Stephen King and Owen King. Now, this is probably my favourite Stephen King book. If anybody asks me, I know you've got like It, and I've done quite a few on this channel like Outsiders and Carrie and Christine, but Sleeping Beauties, I don't know what it is. I thoroughly love this book. And I just couldn't put it down. So essentially the premise is in true sort of like Stephen King fashion, obviously Owen King there written with his son there. But in true Stephen King fashion, something happens and nobody's aware of why it's happening, how it's happening, and so on and so forth. So what's happened is the women start falling asleep. Now, when they fall asleep, they get wrapped in this cocoon and they don't wake up. And what it does is it follows. So when they like the women kind of end up in their own like world, so they do wake up, but not in the normal world, as it were. They wake up in this other world where it's just the women. So no men make it across, no boys make it across. It's just the women. You fall asleep in the real world, you get covered in a cocoon. You wake up in this alternate world. But it also sort of like, it's so interesting because it follows on sort of like how people react when they're confronted with something they don't know, how, you know, the world would work if there were no women in it. What would you do? And it's all these little interesting things. And it's also because there's a scene in it where one of the women in the cocoon, the guys decide, you know what, we're gonna get rid of it because it's scary, we don't know what it is, and so they set fire to it, which is a woman inside this cocoon, but they set fire to it. And what happens afterwards is, in this fake world, in this alternate world, this woman disappears. Poof. So if they get killed in the real world, they die in this fake world. And it's just so, I mean, I'm not going to tell you how it ends, I'm not going to tell you anything about that, but it's so interesting to look at sort of like how this would work, what this reality would be, and going forward with like that. Because I mean, there's a scene where as soon as this police chief knows what's going on, she's a woman and she realizes you fall asleep, you don't wake up. She tries her hardest to stay awake as long as she can because she knows she's got little boys and stuff like that, and she wants to be able to protect and serve her area. And so she tries to stay awake as long as humanly possible, but obviously it doesn't work, and she ends up falling asleep. And then it's just looking at sort of like the real world, sort of like how the men are reacting to this, like what they're doing, like how do they handle it in a world without women, you know. And it's just, I really enjoyed it because obviously with a lot of Stephen King stuff, it's never explained how these, well, sometimes it is, like, understand, it is explained how the virus starts, it, you know, it's man-made, of course it is. But with a lot of things, it's not sort of explained, sort of these things that just happen. So like in It, you know, Pennywise is just there. He's just an ancient it's just an ancient being that has been around for centuries and comes up every 27 years or whatever it is. And so sometimes I find like, I do find things frustrating sometimes when I'm like, I just want to know. But with this one, even though you never really find out why it happened or, you know, how it kind of got started, it's really quite interesting. And I love the writing style. I love, you know, I love the way that even though it is two people that have co-written it, sometimes it is quite jarring when you're writing a book that's been co-written. But with this one, it doesn't jar me, and I really thoroughly enjoyed it. And as I said, it is hands down one of my favourite Stephen King novel. I know it's probably an unpopular opinion, and please comment below what your favourite Stephen King novel is. I am more than happy. I've read a lot of his, so if you've noted one that I've not read, absolutely fine. But I will put my hands up and say I will not read any more of his Bachman books. I have read some of his when he writes under Bachman. I'm just not a huge fan. I'm sorry. Again, I know it's probably an unpopular opinion. It is what it is. But comment below your favourite Stephen King book. But I would definitely give this one a read. I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5 for me. So please let me know if you read it. Let me know if you enjoy it. And let me know what your favourite one is. So thank you very much for your continued support. and remember to click subscribe, and then you'll be alerted whenever a new video comes out. And I'm always looking for sort of collaborations as well, or like if you've got a favorite book that you want to do, and you'd like to come on the channel, let me know. I've had guest stars before, I'll happily have guest stars again. But thank you very much, and keep it contento.